Okay, let's talk about linear versus nonlinear equations in two variables. Basically, you need to be able to recognize whether or not a given equation graphs to be a line. So let's go back to familiar territory. You know that anything that can be written in the form y equals mx plus b, this is called slope-intercept form, anything that can be written in this form graphs to be a line with slope m and y-intercept 0 comma b if you write it as an ordered pair. And then of course if you have x equals a constant, that graphs to be a vertical line. So any equation that can be written in either of these two forms graphs to be a line. Now it doesn't have to be written in this form to recognize that it graphs to be a line. For instance, if you recognize that the equation 3x plus 2y equals 8, you could solve that for y and get it in this form. You know it's a linear equation. You don't actually have to necessarily solve it for y unless you're asked for the slope and the y-intercept, or if you want a nice convenient way to graph it. If you're just asked whether or not it's a linear equation, you can recognize, oh, I could put it in y equals mx plus b form. So yes, this is a linear equation. Or like 2y minus, how about, let's change that to 2x minus 5 equals 10. You could solve this thing for, that's supposed to be x right there, get it x equals a constant. So this is a linear equation as well. And then if you see something like this, y equals x to some power other than 1, it could be 2 or 3 or 4, or it could be a decimal. It could be like a fractional power, 2/3, and then plus whatever, it doesn't matter, or you can just leave it as is. This is nonlinear. I know that because the exponent's not 1 there. So the assumed exponent here and here and here, it's 1. If you get an exponent that's not 1, either on the x or the y, it's not going to graph to be a line. Now that doesn't mean that every equation where the variables have exponents of 1 graph to be a line. So like if you get x times y equals 3, that doesn't graph to be a line either. You can't have the unknowns multiplied together. And by the way, the unknowns don't have to be x and y. You could have like q equals 3p plus 2. That actually does graph to be a line. P is acting like x there and q is acting like y. So it's actually in slope-intercept form using the variables p and q instead of x and y. So this actually is a line. These guys aren't. If you're not sure, you could always go to Desmos, type in, say, x times y equals 3, and you can see right away that this graph actually has 2 branches to it, and neither one looks like a line. So it's got to be a nonlinear equation. So if all else fails, you could graph it, but you should be able to recognize just by looking at it, oh, that's not there's no way I could write this equation and make it look like either of these two equations. So it's not going to graph to be a line.